Hey, good afternoon and happy International Women's Day. Happy, Women's Day. Women should be celebrated every day, all day, because they are the bread of life. In 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Let's take the first, 45 minutes or so and celebrate the women in our lives, our sisters, our mothers, our daughters. Hey, let's celebrate together, show them the love. Then 1 p.m., we have our friends from the Crisis Center, and hopefully at 1:30, Dr. Palmer over at HSA may be able to drive and find our studio and have a chat and a credibility. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And we invite you to be a part of a discussion. It's wonderful that not just across the globe, but here in our own country, we get a chance to really appreciate, I think, what may have been something that was silent and quietly celebrated, respected and revered amongst our society, but perhaps not to the extent that it continually motivates and demonstrates the wonderful love, respect, appreciation, and value that we have for our citizens, but for our women in particular. Some of us may have grown up in households that would talk about the women folk, the girl child. Well, they are indeed remarkable. And if we would probably quickly just cast our minds across the globe, we'll see phenomenal accomplishments in history and even now, and continuing by our women, but even in our own Cayman community. Look at education to business, and increasingly in politics, not just the politically elected, but those who help to formulate policy to get those who are elected. The real, sort of movers and shakers have been our women, from the wives who are supportive, to the mothers who are nurturing, to the sisters who stand steadfast to keep, each other in check and on the right path. So maybe you would want to weigh in and send a sign of appreciation to the women in our society. I do my best not to try to make light of it and to joke, because sometimes, something like this needs to be truly given the platform and shown the respect. If you take, for instance, this evening over at the National Gallery, Renata Ketchkis, together with many of the artists, students at SciFac, in partnership with the National Gallery in particular, a wonderful event to showcase and celebrate the empowerment of women, to appreciate that any action or inaction that hinders, harms each other isn't one that we want to just turn a blind eye to. But we're looking for those things that help, and appreciate that many of us are on the ball day in and day out. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp 925-3261. I'll open it up to you, but to share as you wish. But let me ask a question. Can you think back to a time, and specifically to when some woman, whether it was even sometimes your daughter, it might have been your teacher, it might have been the next door neighbor, it might have been your aunt, to some woman who corrected you, who encouraged you. But sometimes that level of correction, guidance that we need is that thing that we can look to that separates us sometimes from this path and the next. Hey, let's go to the phones. Welcome, good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Sterling.
Hi, welcome. How are you?
Sterling.
Yes.
Today is Women's Day, right?
It is indeed.
I don't want to look show off or look stupid, but I just want to say and be a hypocrite. I just want to say, kudu to Caymanian women.
I agree with you.
And my work, I have met some Caymanian age-able women. And those women used to work like in hotel and things like that all the years. And you know what? When you look and you see the house that they have, and they buy land and leave for the children, you wouldn't call them strong women? Yeah.
They're incredibly strong.
Yeah. And you know, years ago, if he listening him, I don't remember who he is, I didn't know. But anyways, I saw a young man by pastor, and he was criticizing some young women. So I said, come here. So he came, I said, who your mother is? Came and I said, well, say you don't find one that you like, but stop putting down Caymanian woman. You know, I tell me, said, thank you, mom. So here we are, see.
As I listen to that, I'm wondering to what extent, and maybe just speak to the Cayman context. In our society, we either consciously and deliberately sort of put women to the margin, to the side, and just allow it to be. When, in fact, if we look, and I say this to be guided by people, but if you look to the statue in town, and I always say that little statue because to me, as much as I can exaggerate it, that could be 50 million feet, in diameter and as high, it still wouldn't be big enough to capture the essence of the women, their profound and lasting contribution to our society. We talk about the Iron Men on wooden ships, but I think those men, from the husbands, to the fathers, to the brothers, to the sons, would share that if it wasn't for what the women were, and capable of doing, they probably would not necessarily have been as willing to continue that sacrifice. Because when they came back home, the money was saved, houses were built, the children were well taken care of. They could see significant progress, while they were at sea, doing their thing, as it were. So how do we get more of us to appreciate? And this is the respect part. I want to be absolutely careful to get women somehow to look at themselves and to see their worth and their value, and to respect themselves, and to say to their counterpart, whether it's another woman or it's a man, whether it's romantic or otherwise, and say, listen, man, you got to pull it up. Let's just raise the bar together. How do we get there?
And not coming here, but back in the days, they didn't have the opportunity to go away and so they had to do what they had to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They never, and it's not just here, and it's not just, way back when. I mean, I've heard stories as recent as the 70s and even in the more recent times where women in some of the European nations, the Western European nations, were still looked at, what's that word, Miss Susan? Tell me. Oh, she's being kind. She said not equal. There's another word that comes to mind. And have we really made any significant strides to make sure that people are seen as people? They're encouraged and chastised for their behaviors, not because of they're male or female, or they're from here or there, or they got money, or they're this color, or they're this level of academic education, or this job, or even sometimes you look at how people are dressed and we quickly dismiss them, not to realize that anyway, let me listen to you. Talk to me.
Yeah, they have some people, they don't know a certain country people. If they think that you don't look up there, they'll treat you in a different way till when they find out who you are, what profession you have. Then you see them, they change. You have to treat everyone the same way, because that's what God made us.
What is it that we probably all used to see way back when? What they say, a man works from sun to sun, but a woman's work is never done. I think we have come a long way, but is it then that it's maybe I say it this way first. They say if a woman has to work twice as hard to be considered half as good. Why are we so willing to let people, especially somewhere we want to be mindful that people don't take it the wrong way. We just can't see people for people. We got to add qualifying terms before them, and not to describe them in a great way to promote them, but to sort of, in our own minds, maybe justify the comment. Where do you see us going? Do you see women and men eventually being seen as equals?
Women are go run this.
I know you come. I think they already do.
21st century.
There you go. Well, you know what?
Yes.
Continue to represent and celebrate. Continue to be proud and to be that great example. All right.
Thank you, and God bless.
Amen. Blessings to you. God bless. All right, we're going to pause, take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue with the phone calls. So please, stay tuned.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Kim and Brack and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skin care, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drportercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
The 8:12 a.m. weather report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by CG Britcay. Insurance, health, pensions, life, where people come first.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. Going to be open line until 1 p.m. And as we continue to celebrate International Women's Day, let's go to the phones. Welcome, good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Sterling.
And to you, a wonderful good afternoon.
Happy Women's Day.
Happy Women's Day indeed.
You know, when it comes to salaries, we should all be equal or higher, the ladies. But, you know, we'll see who discuss that some more. But, you know, we have big issues in so many departments in life, and which is great. So I think we deserve just as higher pay as the men do when it's come to who can do the most and who's very reliable and who shows a lot of interest on their job and who don't come in 9 o'clock and leave 1 minute to 5.
Yeah. You know, but that's the thing too, right? Sometimes, as you shared, there are some people who will look very much at your time in office, so to speak, as opposed to your productivity. So there are some who would say, well, if you can be there between 8 and 5 and productive, you don't need to be there between 5 and 8 p.m. But then there are those who they like to remain late, after 5 or 6, to say that they're there. Maybe they want to avoid going home or avoid going to other places, whatever the reasons. But is it possible that we look beyond that, just like we look beyond the person's color, ethnicity, their dress, so to speak, their gender, and just see, as you said, their productivity, right?
I don't know. There's a couple of things in my industry. There could be the gender, it could be being productive, it could be so many things, because every person has a different personality, and some shows more interest in their work than others, and some just like to know that someone else is doing their job while they're on the phone or fiddling their fingers or playing with their hair or on the phone, or we got that in the whole world.
Right.
Man, you know what I mean? If I came in and go outside to smoke a cigarette or to do a phone call, they're probably sometimes they're fired for that. But that in nationalities, they can go outside and have a cigarette smoke 2 and 3 times a day, and they can use their cell phones. But there's a few locals that have been watched in Sterling has been from day one. And it's not really fair. We should all be equal across the board when it comes to being in the office or in the workplace. We put our difference away when we get into those doors, and when we come out, we go separate ways, and we don't have to call and tell each other good night or whatever. But when you come back in the office next morning, you respect each other.
Well, that is it, right? And there are some people like students. We know students may learn in different ways. So some people may find that they're more productive at certain times of the day. They may find that they work, as we're now seeing, better if they're working in the office or if they're working remotely from home somewhere.
Sterling?
Mm-hmm.
When you say that, let me tell you something now. I am a morning person.
Mm-hmm.
But after 4 o'clock in the evening, you mess with me. Thank God with the job that I have. I don't have a general job, but I am full force when morning comes.
I hear you, man. I saw something way back when, and kudos to one of the co-workers. I think we use the word manager sometimes without appreciating, the importance of that word. We just assume it, and the story goes that the co-worker sees that this other fellow co-worker performs better at a certain time, and suggests to the supervisor, if you put Johnny on this shift, it would be better because we'll get things done. Because Johnny is a morning person, Johnny is a late person, and I think recognizing that,
Yeah, but Sterling, I've got a couple of things I want to hit on. I'll just name them out, and you can hit on them, in between your conversations, or you can do some now.
All right.
The garbage is ridiculous. Is ridiculous. It's unacceptable for such a small island. Just 1 week pick up, Sterling is not working. The population is growing, and there's no need for this garbage to be piled up for 1 whole week to be picked up, and it's in such bad condition. Sterling, you know what? Sooner or later, we can have to bring out a restriction that you keep your garbage in your backyard until it's time for that garbage to come, because driving across and seeing this garbage on the side of the road in the business areas, the residential areas, Sterling is ridiculous. And I want to hit on a couple of things before you hit me with that box. Can I just name off what I want?
Of course, I was going to say, I'm making a list. So go garbage and then, thank you.
Thank you.
We're on the same page.
Sterling, I don't know what people coming, because Sterling, we got the very signs up now stating, use your indicator. Sterling, of all places, as small as this island is, we got to remind an individual to use the indicator. That is undespicable, unbelievable. Sterling, we got all these pedestrian crossings, and they're not being used the way they should be used. Now they're going to put these signs that stand in the pedestrian lanes through and out Georgetown,
Yeah, seen that, yeah.
Schools on Walker's Road that we are dropping off kids in the evening time, picking up kids in the morning time. We don't have any on Walker's Road, and there's 2 pedestrians, like 3, I think from Truth Youth going up. You got like 1, 2, 3. I think it's 3 or 4 pedestrians going up.
Yeah.
And we don't have any of those up there. We stopped the bus, we got our flashers on, and the cars are still crossing.
Mm-hmm.
We got the people living in the neighborhood that's crossing, and the car is crossing at the same time the person is trying to cross the pedestrian. That got to be stopped. Sterling, this thing about trying to make more roads for this island doesn't make one grain of sense to anybody who is creating these roads. Sterling, our problem is these vehicles, they are overloaded with traffic on the road. And I don't care how many lanes we get, we got a bottleneck somewhere down the line. So we're not solving the problem. We need to start looking at the vehicles that we got on the road and how much we are allowed to bring in per year or whatever the case may be. Making these lanes not solving the problem. And it's just, I see the just crop off. These are by hurlers. That there is where that road is bad. They didn't dig that up in the surface, that in the ground, and then put on their what Mr. Wilford talk about the barbecue topping on it. They just capped it.
Yeah.
That's going to be eaten away no time again because it's a very busy road. It's going to be, it needs to be rebuilt. But you know what's going to happen if we build it, right? There's going to be a lot of flooding up that area, even more than what we got now up here.
Because the road will be higher. Yeah.
You know, I just want to say that hitting on the garbage, the pedestrian crossing that people very seldom using, they walk further away from it, whatever the case may be. And now we got signs in the pedestrian crossing. And what about the kids on Walker's Road?
School zones, huh?
You know, and the garbage is ridiculous.
If you look at West Bay Road, for instance, right? I mean, we've done a number of that, just even the name these days, but we can reduce that to 25 miles now. But some of the highly developed residential areas, 30 miles an hour, sometimes the zones by schools. I'm told by the West Bay Primary School, and the town hall and library, that is now increased to 30, where it was once 25. So, where
those pedestrians, those pedestrians in town, they got one by the library, and if you go in the corner in the front of the Assembly building, there's one again there. That is extremely too close, man.
Yeah.
What are they thinking?
What do you think?
Another thing, Sterling, another thing. West Bay Road, the light, that needs to be changed. Down there is still too dark, Sterling, at night. It is terrible. And you got people crossing the pedestrian down there by Royal Palms or Royal Park. They're not hitting the button. And that little spot there is pretty dark going across to the big building there, whatever that's called. I can't call it, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right.
And that will need to be lit up some more, man, for real. Yeah.
Well, we got some areas that are lit like a football stadium, and as you said, some areas that could maybe use a little bit lighting. But those pedestrian crossings, I think we who use them sometimes need to be a little bit more sensible too, because I see people reaching back as they're almost halfway on the road to press the button for it to flash.
But you know what people do too, Sterling? A car will be coming, and that individual will just walk right in the front of that car that is coming.
Yep.
And the person that's going to use the pedestrian, they should press the button. If there's not a button, stand there and wait. If that car doesn't want to stop, you wait.
Yeah.
Not saying because you got the right of way with that pedestrian that you must walk in the front of the car. And I see that on a daily basis throughout the whole island.
Well, it begs to the question whether those lights at those pedestrian crossings are actually the best lights to be installed. I mean, maybe there should be some other sort of light that stays on a little bit longer. You're right, though. Pedestrians need to remember that, they press and then they wait for the car to let them cross, because many times as drivers, not just that we're inconsiderate or inattentive, but we just decide, you know what, we're not even going to bother extend that courtesy. But from the pedestrian's perspective, you hit the car hits you, you probably get the worst of it, right?
Yeah.
And you
want to know what I'm eating?
Hmm.
You want to know what I'm eating?
Yeah.
You want to know what I'm eating?
Tell us.
You don't know chocolate.
No. So
I'm eating rice and bean. It doesn't require any meat. You want to know what's cooked with?
tell me.
It has coconut oil.
Okay.
It has bay leaf.
Mm-hmm.
It has thyme. It has turmeric and all the other seasonings. And it has basil, fresh local basil that I'm growing.
Wow.
And it's what you call drop grain. That means no meat.
Okay.
No meat whatsoever. So just
Well.
what I would tease you with the rice and beans. This is Kim Hungry.
You're making me hungry now. You're making me wish I had accepted that generous offer to bring me some lunch, because I tell you what. Anyway, I think I can make it through until 2:30.
You better make it through the day because there's no meat to go to some. This is rice and meat. It doesn't need no meat. It's well flavored. It needs no meat.
Well, I tell you, last night I had, since we talk about food and it's lunchtime, I had a good meal of some snapper, some good yellow heart breadfruit.
Wow.
Done with some fresh coconut milk.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. And
Yeah,
now,
my cousin had she had a fried fish this weekend.
Mhm.
With my and fritters, and fried cassava. That was delicious.
but you know that the thing is, like with anything, once something is done with love, cooked with love, served with love, you sit and you eat and I use that word, deliberately. The meal is that much better, right? The company, the fellowship, right?
Yeah. When after Hurricane Ivan, we all went to Tampa. So my nephew, just in Rankin, my nephew, he got up one morning. He said, Aunt Jan, cook some food with love. And that's where I heard that, and I'm like, whoa. So this has been using it ever since amongst people,
There you go, man.
And I'm like, what? Cook some food with love. We got up and get some steaks and potatoes and so forth and so forth.
Gee.
I never heard that one before. Cook some, Aunt Jan, cook some food with love.
That's it, man.
I went to the stand cook.
And he enjoyed every bit of it.
Yeah.
As the mama say, every morsel. Huh? All right, but you enjoy your afternoon, all right? And thanks very much for. Thank you too.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, Miss Susan is right there. We're gonna pause for the break. Come back, take some more calls. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Subway makes it easy for you to stay on top of your health and wellness goals with our Fresh Fit menu options. Choose from 5 Fresh Fit Subway sandwiches with only 450 calories or less per 6-inch sub. Turkey breast, veggie, oven-roasted chicken, Black Forest ham, sweet onion chicken teriyaki, or make your 6-inch Fresh Fit sub into a salad or wrap prepared with fresh vegetables. For a full menu and nutritional information, visit subway.ky. Subway, eat fresh.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Attention Caymanian job seekers. Do you want to know what jobs are available right now in the Cayman Islands? See all available jobs listed by occupation in the Jobs Cayman job directory printed in this week's local newspapers. Pick up the newspaper to see all available jobs listed by occupation. Then go to www.work.ky. That's WORC.ky to register and apply online.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. It's going to be some open line, 949-8837. Toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. Or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. Just looked at a quick message that came through and referring to the last caller's points. As usual, always good things. I think our best point is probably over the fact that what the food we were talking about and cooking it with love. But as she was sharing the first comment regarding garbage, she said, seemed like once a week in some places isn't, really doing what we expected to. But then she suggested that maybe there needs to be either a law or, if possible, and I just put this part in, before we get to legislation, maybe as a people we start to understand that it should be the accepted practice. We keep our garbage secure, as many of us probably do, until the garbage truck is coming. So the night before, we put it out securely and safely. Because remember, the guys collecting the garbage, we want them to be safe as well. I know sometimes my garbage bags are probably, really full, and the garbage cans are probably, really full. But you try to put it in the space. Now I'm thinking to the larger dumpsters and maybe some of the other complexes, including the commercial complexes, but the apartments and condos and the like. There's a big dumpster. We dump things in. The truck comes and scoops up the dumpster. But if it's not that case, and it's just garbage cans out there, what can we do as people to minimize the amount of things we put in the garbage? So not just trying to recycle. And I know that some have questions about that. Some feel it's a bit of a hassle. Some say it's inaccessible. Some complain that when they go, they got to drive around to multiple sites because it's overflowing. It needs to be cleared. But then, to the caller's point, and to that, is it that our consumption needs to be, seriously reconsidered? Our purchasing habits, the way we dispose of things. For instance, if we have the desire and we are very, very actively engaged in recycling, and let's say we're having cardboard boxes and similar things that qualify as the paper aspect of recycling, do we try to break it down so that it isn't this large bulky thing, so that when we go to put it to recycling, we can get as much of it into the space and consider other people come along. But if we take and we toss it all in just like that, and want to worry about, we got ours in, the next person come along had to figure it out for himself, what can we do? And maybe it's not the recycling, maybe it's the notion that it is our household garbage, maybe we've recycled all we can, composted all we can, and now this is the one that has to be disposed of. Well, can we secure it properly until it's that time? All right, let's go to the phones. Welcome, good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Very blessed and thankful. How are you?
Blessed and thankful. I got pain in my legs, but I'm still blessed because I can still move around on them.
Thank God, yeah. And I pray the pain goes,
Yes, exactly. Susan just made a suggestion to me, and I think it's a good suggestion because it has helped our older folks in the sea.
In the sea, yeah.
The sea, and she's right. Anyway, my dear, I know it's open line, and or I just heard that it was open line, and it's a few things that keeps bothering me. One of them is, and I don't know if you can answer them or whether somebody else can answer them, but I'll try. We have Meals on Wheels, and we are so blessed that we have people that thinks about older people and people that can't get themselves or help themselves to a meal. But I know, and then I am thankful for companies that give. I'm thankful for companies that let their staff off so they can go and help to deliver these meals to these people that are in need. But do you know what? I know I asked this question before, and I keep asking questions because it's very concerning. Do you know how do they get meals after Friday? Because Meals on Wheels don't deliver Saturday and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how do these people even get a meal or anything like that? I know there is families. That are working out there, and yet they still have Meals on Wheels to deliver their family member, whether it's a mother, whether it's a father, whether it's both meals. And to me, that is not right. It is not fair, because that may be their only family member that is left that need that kind of care. Or if it is their father and mother, shame on them. They should have meals fixed, somebody there to fix meals if they can't fix it themselves, or somebody there to look out for them. I know I often see your sister out with your mom and your dad, and God bless her, and I know all of you it would be helping, but his other family members, because I know of that. I was delivering at one time until I now is taking care of my mental cousin, that we as a big family, but it's left up to Charlene to look out for, and it's just a cousin. So, but have feelings. She's the same as any of us. She needs to eat. She needs to get to the doctor. But I can't explain sometimes how I feel about the whole thing, with no one to speak to except my doctor, and God bless him, and my husband that is always willing to lend a helping hand, that is no blood relative. And that is every week. And I often think of these people. Then another subject that I just heard on the radio about these jobs and stuff for people that don't have jobs, and they should apply for these jobs, but they keep giving how to apply. Now, if they're in need of a job, I know some of them that would try all their best to find out how to get these jobs. But then again, they're talking about computer. How people that don't know anything about a computer, how are they going to apply for these jobs? I'm wondering if it is not an easier way that they can call up and say, I don't know anything about a computer. How am I going to get to www whatever? So can I call up and register, or can I make an appointment to see somebody in these times of stress and war and things? Why does things have to be in this little island that government is trying to help everyone, and I don't know if it's a lot of people that's trying to help themselves. I don't know that. I see some that don't help themselves. They rather sit on their tree and play cards all day, but yet they're fed. Anyway, that is some of the things that is bothering me. And we have all of these hotels, and are they taking on any people that want to be in tourism but are not training them? No, they're not. You know why? Because they can bring them in from overseas and pay them less. That's the reason why we're not getting our people trained by hotels that want to be in tourism or needs a job, but I don't know if government has figured that out yet, that this is what is happening. The reason why they're not training people, they take on Caymanians just for the sake of getting another work permit from overseas, and then we have people that like the president of the CITA. For goodness sake, he's the general manager of one of the biggest hotels in this island, and has been here for a long time. I don't know what language he speaks, but it certainly isn't English. You can hardly, barely understand him, but yet they claim that they take on Caymanians. Yes, they do. But for how long? Do they train them? I would not give these people work permit unless it's an equal thing. You take on this amount and get them trained, and then we'll give you a certain amount of work permit. Or when these so-called experts come to the island to work in our hotels, and we open our arms up to them, thinking that, okay, I can be trained too. Then you come to this island, we can only give you a work permit for a year or two. You train our people. It's always a solution. You just got to do it and try it.
Well, thank you very, very much, Mom, for that. And respectfully, we'll just pause and go to a news break. But the caller's points, well, let's see. So thank you, Mom, and respectfully.
Thank you, too.
God bless, Mom. All right. When we come back, we'll talk today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
From Radio Cayman's newsroom, I'm April Cummings. Minister for Education, the Honourable Juliana O'Connor Conley, issues a International Women's Day message. She says today is a time to pay tribute to women worldwide, lauding them for their strength and resilience. The minister says as we commemorate this day under the theme Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow, we give recognition to the outstanding contributions of Caymanian women who have led the charge in various fields, including education, to ensure a more sustainable future for all. In international headlines, U.S. President Joe Biden announced today the U.S. will ban all Russian oil imports, toughening the toll on Russia's economy in retaliation for its invasion of Ukraine. But he acknowledged it will bring costs to Americans, particularly at the gas pump. This action follows pleas by Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky to U.S. and Western officials to cut off the imports, which had been a glaring omission in the massive sanctions put in place on Russia over the invasion. Energy exports have kept a steady stream of cash flowing to Russia, despite otherwise severe restrictions on its financial sector. An expert group convened by the World Health Organization said today that it strongly supports urgent and broad access to booster doses of COVID-19 vaccine amid the global spread of Omicron, capping a reversal of the UN agency's repeated insistence last year that boosters weren't necessary and contributed to vaccine inequity. In a statement, WHO said its expert group concluded vaccination, including the use of boosters, is especially important for people at risk of severe disease. In a statement, the WHO said its expert group concluded vaccination, including the use of boosters, is especially important for people at risk of severe disease. The World Health Organization eased back on its earlier position back in January by saying boosters were recommended once countries had adequate supplies and after protecting their most vulnerable. Those are your headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. I'm April Cummings.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Captain Keith Parker Tibbetts, MBE, JP. Captain Keith Parker Tibbetts, MBE, JP, was born at Cotton Tree Bay, Cayman Brac, on October 15, 1916, to James Nathaniel Tibbetts and Elsie Huldah Tibbetts, nee Hunter. He was a man of many talents. From shipbuilding, seafaring, a military career, a prosperous entrepreneur, and many decades of service to the people of Cayman Brac and the Cayman Islands as a whole. After serving as a member of the lawmaking body known as the Vestry from 1946 to 1968, he represented the Cayman Islands at the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association in Trinidad in 1968 and again in 1978. In 1969, he was appointed a JP. Then in 1976, he was elected to the Legislative Assembly for a 4-year term. Notably, the Cayman Brac representative petitioned the Legislative Assembly with names of over 400 Cayman Brackers, stating they wished to remain a crown colony rather than follow Jamaica's route of independence. In 1977, he represented the Cayman Islands at the Queen's Silver Jubilee in London. In 1988, he was made a member of the Order of the British Empire, MBE, among numerous other community awards, and served with many groups from Ebenezer Baptist Church to Education Councils, Veterans and Seamen's Society, CUC, and the Rotary Club of Cayman Brac. As a testimony of his contributions to his community and connection to sea and tourism, in 1996, shortly after his passing, a Russian destroyer was renamed the MV Captain Tibbetts in his honor and sunk in Cayman Brac waters by the Cayman Islands government to become a popular dive site. After a long and distinguished life of service to his community, he passed away on March 10, 1996. He was married to the late Hilary Elizabeth Marjorie Tibbetts, and together they had 5 children. This was part 7 of a special Sister Islands vignette series dedicated to Captain Keith Parker Tibbetts.
I'll be back. I've got 22 more days.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your Sister Islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your Sister Islands.
Discover all that our Sister Islands have to offer.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location, ValueMed on Walkers Road or Boddentown. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thank you very much for joining us. And between now and 1:30, we're honored to welcome our good friends from the Cayman Islands Crisis Center to celebrate not just International Women's Day, but their 19th anniversary. And their on-reach coordinator, Ms. Marisha Spence. I think you're here almost as often as Susan.
I think I am now beyond a friend of the show, but a family of the show.
Family of the show. Well, you know what that means, you know. As a family members, they bring food.
Yeah, no worries. That will be arranged in a future visit.
Okay, and we have specifications, dietary restrictions. I mean,
yes, just send me the list and I'll have everything ready.
Not a problem. Or people will contact your people.
Sounds good.
But good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm joined today by my two lovely colleagues because it's a very special day for us. So we're here to take over the radio. Jamara Bodden and Akila Wallen, and they'll be sharing alongside myself today.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate it. I think, you know, when we think of 19, you know, I mean, the only other one remaining sort of year of teen years is 20 teen. Yeah, so 19 is important, like just like 11 teen and 20 and 12 teen.
Yes, it certainly is. And on that note, you know, this is a very special day for us, and it's somewhat of a bittersweet, especially in the sense that we're able to provide the needed support to persons affected by domestic abuse, but just to look back to see how long this issue has been affecting our community, you know, it really saddens us. But then on the other side, we're really happy that we're able to provide this magnitude of support. And two, as you mentioned, today is International Women's Day, so I want to say happy International Women's Day to all the lovely women and the girls out there who are achieving, who are breaking down barriers. And what I want to get out there is that we are not asking for special treatment, we're asking for fair treatment, because if we're to achieve a gender equal world, then everyone needs to be treated fairly, everyone needs to be treated on the same scale.
Yeah, man, and I think seeing where all of our efforts can complement each other. I think this evening, for instance, at the National Gala, Renata Ketchkis and, you know, many of the artists, but together with the SFX students,
yes,
you know, having an opportunity to be empowered to showcase, to celebrate, and to recognize, as you said, you know, gender-based violence should not have a place in any society. So, Ms. Bodden, welcome, and thank you for coming on board.
Me.
And it's a pleasure, because for us, as I think Marisha shares, it is bittersweet, but when we look, it was only in the mid-'80s that this whole notion of, you know, celebrating women to the extent to showcasing the importance of gender-based violence, and that was yesterday for some of us. We go back to the Cayman context, you know, our women advocating consistently and constantly for the right to. Why can't we go to the polls and not just vote, but also stand for election?
Yes.
The U.S. in the 30s, before they got international suffrage. So when we think of Cayman as a small place, we've made significant strides in addressing these issues. But it's kudos to, you know, people like yourselves who stand in the gap. So thank you.
No problem.
And well, let's be mindful that we have 4 women in the studio, 3 that you see, one that is. You know,
but she's there. She is the power person behind all the operations today.
See that? Women, you know, you don't have to hear them and see them, you just know they exist and they do it all, right? But today we want to showcase and celebrate. So, Mr. Whelan, from that perspective, good afternoon, welcome, thanks for coming on board.
Good afternoon, thank you for having me.
All right, it's a pleasure, man. And I think sometimes people don't appreciate that, just like, you know, it's a lunchtime when you're running out to get your children for something, or you're going to go get lunch to get back to your desk. I appreciate as our guest, you're on accepted lunch hour, so you're here, so we're grateful.
Yes.
But let's talk about it, because we only got,
not a lot of time. But before I get into the activities, I just want to say a huge thank you to all our sponsors. There are too many to name, and I don't want to leave anyone off the list. So thank you to all our sponsors, all our volunteers, those persons who donate on a regular basis, just the entire community on a whole, or board members or staff, importantly, because we're the ones who are at the forefront of this role. So I am really grateful that we're able to provide the support that we do to the community, and we couldn't do it alone. So we depend heavily on the community itself to provide the services. So a big thank you to all.
Yes, and I think this is where we see that continued, concerted, consistent effort, by all and sundry, making a meaningful impact.
Yes.
So we draw alongside.
Yeah. So for those of our listeners who maybe isn't familiar with the Crisis Center and what we do, so we are a charitable organization, and we provide support and services to all persons affected by domestic abuse here on the Cayman Islands. And we have a number of services, and I'll let Jamara just briefly mention some of them.
Thank you, Marisha. So yes, we do have several programs that we have at the Cayman Islands Crisis Center. One of them is the 24-hour crisis line, in which we used to give guidance and usually just crisis counseling. We also have the kids helpline, the 24/7 emergency shelter. That is where we usually allow women who are experiencing domestic violence or domestic abuse, and they are able to have safe shelter. There's also the aftercare program, Estella's Place, the Taya Lounge, and the community outreach program that we have.
Spencer, I mean, when you think of a small community like this and being able to see the need, but also do something about it, and we all come together, respecting the privacy and the confidentiality, but also ensuring the safety and security.
Yes, and especially with domestic abuse situations, safety is a priority, because abuse is about power and control. And in leaving an abusive situation, you're breaking that imbalance of power and control. So you're regaining your power. And people who are power hungry, they'll go to any means necessary, to try to control, to overpower you. And so we understand this, and we appreciate the need for safety, and this is why we focus so heavily on safe sheltering for our clients and their children.
And I heard your initial comments where you said sort of bittersweet in a sense, and we can understand that, but then think the other way around. What if we see things and do nothing? We pretend that it's
not happening. Yeah, that would be so much worse.
Yeah. And maybe, eventually it's like some would say with policing, the presence of it doesn't mean there's crime, but the absence of policing doesn't mean it's safe either.
Yes.
So, philosopher today. All right. And for those who perhaps are not sure whether they would qualify or even how to access or just want more information, because there are things that happen in their lives that we may not see it as something that's continued over the years. It may have been one-off because of frustrations, but before it gets it, what's the phrase, nip it in the bud. How does one go about contacting you, accessing service, find out more, find out whether or not this is something that can be of help to them?
All right. So, firstly, we have, as Jamara mentioned, the 24-hour crisis line. If someone is experiencing abuse, or if they think they may be experiencing abuse, or just something is off and they're not sure what it is, they can always call, and we will talk to them. We will educate them on what abuse is, what are the signs of abuse, and what a healthy relationship is. So then they can make the decision to say, am I really in an abusive situation? What's the level of support that I'll need? And we provide all the support, through one umbrella of the Crisis Center. There's also the Estella's Place Walk-in Center, so people or persons within the community, male included, because I get the question asked a lot, if we provide services to males. So yes, we do provide service to males, just that we're not able to provide safe sheltering at the moment. And we also have to look at where the greater need is for sheltering, and that's for women and children. But men also can come into our Estella's Place Walk-in Center to access support and services. So just for the general general public, if you need information, you can always call the crisis line. You can come to the walk-in center. And a part of our offerings too is the community outreach program, where we, engage with the community, different organizations, to talk about abuse, to speak about the issues surrounding domestic abuse, so people can also get information from that medium as well.
I think this is where having that level of public discussion and awareness makes it. Mr. Kayla, what would you like to share with our listeners? I mean, the idea that this sort of impact on our society isn't one-off. It isn't just today, and it may be continuing. It's probably generational sometimes. So.
Yeah, a lot of times you'll see where, sometimes it does become a generational thing where, a mother might experience domestic abuse and the child comes and she experiences the same thing. Or if it's a son, they may, sometimes be the perpetrator, or sometimes they may even be victims of abuse themselves. So sometimes, it affects everybody in the community, not only the adults in the situation, but the children too, because, they're living in this environment. So it is something that needs to be addressed and something that needs to be rectified,
What I wonder, what would be the collective view on how best to address it? Education and awareness, providing the resources, how best to rectify it? Because sometimes we think, well, imprisonment, some sort of incarceration, some sort of rehabilitation. But then if the society, Ms. Bond,
Yeah, I think you nailed it when you said that education is key in this in this perspective. Just having the education to know, and just because a perpetrator is engaging in certain actions does not necessarily mean that they know what they're doing as well. So education on all forums. So for what abuse entails, what it is, how to combat it, as well as offering assistance for knowing what to look for, the signs. Yeah. So education is key.
I think too, something that I know Marisha has shared, Renata has shared, the words that we use, to domestic, violence we talk about, perhaps gender-based violence, the approach that it affects all of us, and even if statistically it's maybe women and children, the fact that it can affect us all, and even sometimes. So, Marisha, from that perspective, we have to look at this as all-encompassing as possible.
Yeah, so for a holistic approach to it all. And just, you mentioned on the statistics, I just want to share a little bit of our output for 2021. So in terms of calls received, we received a total of 307 crisis calls. And of that 307, 278 calls were received from women. So you can see the clear distinction in terms of the need, especially for safe sheltering and the type of support that we offer. So we have to tailor the support to where it is most needed. Not to say again that we don't support men. Men are victims of abuse. Men do experience abuse. And I'm going to be very strategic in not using the word two, because when we say two, we're saying, yes, it happens to one gender, but it may happen to the other. So I'm going to say men experience abuse without saying two.
Word choice is important, right?
Yes.
From that perspective, that when you're receiving the calls and is there a distinction between, no, do you know if you get calls from people, just general inquiries? As an example.
Yes, we do get general inquiries call, but in our logs or call logs and statistics, we do not record those as crisis calls.
Okay.
So a crisis call has to do specifically with an abusive situation or person needing support for abuse. And sometimes what you'll find is that the person who is experiencing the abuse may not necessarily be the person who calls in. So someone who is concerned, who sees what's happening, will call on their behalf and then redirect them to us for support.
And I appreciate identifying that, because sometimes I think we may be inclined to say, not the best example, but this is an analogy. Person is interested in ordering a particular product, may just call and say, hey, do you have such and such in this inquiry? As opposed to the person saying, listen, I'm looking specifically for a blue ballpoint pen, with this and specifically want that. One is an inquiry, one is an immediate expected purchase. So in this case, your calls that you log are crisis calls.
Yes.
All right. But please, for those who are not sure where they are yet, don't hesitate calling you just to get the assistance, the direction.
Yes, and we do provide information because, as I mentioned before, if someone is in an uncomfortable relationship and they're not sure if abuse is happening, then they can call. There is always an advocate behind that phone to take the call, to explain to them, to go through with them and help them to identify what a healthy relationship versus an unhealthy relationship. And then from that, they can make a decision as to what is happening to me. Is this unhealthy? So, yeah.
I think that's not just education, but awareness, but also a level of counseling, if that necessarily, guidance, support. Sometimes we know, but we just need help. Sometimes we're not quite sure, but we know it's not what we want it to be. How do we get there?
True, yeah.
You have a number of other programs as well. I think the crisis line, we don't offer for 24 hours. With the greatest respect, one of our callers shared, Meals on Wheels does a fantastic job Monday through Friday, but people eat, supposedly Saturday and Sunday and public holidays as well. We shouldn't leave it just to one entity to do everything all the time. We as a community also need to step up.
So we all have to play a role. And just to add that, our crisis line is 24 hours, so it's available all day, every day.
Right. And you have other programs in...
Yes, we do. So we have our Teens and Young Adult Lounge, which is our TIE program, and this we provide support and guidance to teens, young adults between the age of 14 to up to 21, and that program is delivered at our walk-in center, Estella's Place Walk-in Center. And the Estella's Place is not only our office to the public, but also where, as Jamara mentioned earlier, where persons who don't necessarily need safe sheltering but they need support, they can come into the Estella's Place Walk-in Center and access that level of support. There's the community outreach program where we, raise awareness and educate the community on domestic abuse and other issues, key issues relating to abuse. There's the Kids Helpline. It's a free-to-call helpline for children up to the age of 18. It is not a confidential line, but it is private because as mandatory reporters, we have a role also to safeguard the rights of children. So if something is disclosed to us, it's our responsibility to make the necessary report to MASH and which other agency that we need to. And there's the aftercare program, which is a very key offering in our suites of programs and services. So through the aftercare program, we provide a continuum of support to women and their children after they have left the emergency shelter. So why I said that it's a very important program, because we know all too well that leaving or an abusive relationship or ending the cycle of violence, support plays a very big role. And at our emergency shelter, it's a limited time that you have there. And after you leave, support is still needed. So this is why this program is very important, where we can continue to support our clients up to 2 years or more, depending on their individual and unique need.
And when we see the changing face of our community and the pressures brought on by so much, I think back to our monthly Mental Health Matters show, for instance, and the discussion yesterday with, how things that are happening around the world simultaneously can create so much that it looks like trauma, even though society may not be able to quickly identify it, but the person exhibiting signs of trauma. And when you have events over to the last 2 years that are affecting us continually, and they're becoming compounded in a sense, we need not turn a blind eye and not ignore that it could be us as well. So that person who may be saying, this one happens at such a time or in such a way, it's okay.
But even if it's a one-off occurrence, once abuse happens, it is still abuse, right? So if it happened one time, it's been happening for years, it does not change the fact that abuse is happening, right? And we need to respond to that.
And perhaps as we look more and more at education, we'll see the stigma where whether it's the woman or whether it's the man, that they appreciate there is help.
Yes.
If I might ask you, Ms. Akela, from that perspective, from what you've seen thus far throughout, do you think the society is now starting to appreciate more and more that this is an issue that can be addressed and is being addressed?
Yes, I think that, the community is seeing that it's a problem because now, we have people who reach out to us to call the crisis line and just, inform us of our situation, ask for help. And, it's no longer a thing where it's a thing of shame, where they feel uncomfortable calling or they feel, that they're going to be judged just by calling the crisis line or being at the emergency shelter, because we have people who, they feel like it's a bad thing to be at the shelter. And to us, that's the first step of leaving an abusive situation. You leave the home and then you try to make something for yourself outside of that home. So start by getting your own apartment and stuff like that. And then with men too, we see that, we have some men who are calling in because, sometimes the stigma that's attached to, a man being beat on by a woman, it's not a good thing, and it's a lot of shame. A lot of people are afraid. Well, a lot of men don't go to the police because then they feel like, they're being emasculated or something. Right. So we see more men calling now, and that just goes to show that education and our outreach program is reaching some people, and they're more comfortable to come to or call the crisis center.
And just to add to following what Akile just mentioned in terms of identifying the importance of our services in the community and the awareness that has been created, we can measure the support that we're getting from the community. So be a number of persons who are calling in wanting to volunteer, or it could be the corporate or, personal donations, the organizations and individuals who are raising, doing their own fundraising initiative to benefit the crisis center. And on that note, we have a lot of events coming up this year that I want to shed some light on, which I'm going to let Akile quickly run through. But before I go, I want to make mention of the Project Further, just to highlight that very momentous, and it's a big thing taken on by our former chair of the Crisis Center Board, Denise Powers, through our Project Further initiative, and her aim is to raise $1 million towards building our new shelter. So we're very much badly in need of a purpose-built facility to cater to our women and children. Presently, we're operating from a 4-bedroom home, and based on the numbers of clients that are coming through our doors, that is too much of a small space. So we are looking to build a purpose-built facility. So thanks to Denise, and how she intends to do this is to do the Pacific Trail. So to hike the 2,650-mile Pacific Trail in 2022. I think she started on the 1st of March and is presently ongoing. So we want to give a special highlight, and especially today being International Women's Day, just to see a woman taking on such a challenge to support other women and children. It is really admirable. And also I want to make mention of our upcoming Cayman Documentary Festival, which is a first of its kind being put on by the Cayman Film Society. This is happening, it starts on the 16th. I think there are 5 charities that will benefit, Crisis Center being one of them. So on the 16th, the Tina documentary will be shown, and it will be followed by a panel discussion titled Rising from Abuse. So basically what it will do really is just to look at Tina's experience of abuse and just to bring it home to our Cayman society. So we have experts from the field, dealing with gender-based violence and domestic abuse, who will be participating on the panel. So it's the 16th at the Kamana Bay Cinema. Tickets can be purchased online. You can get information from our social media, or you can go to the Cayman Documentary Festival social media pages for more information.
All right, that's on the 16th.
Yes.
Okay, so for the month of March, we have an event coming up. That is Pi Day. That is the 14th of March. This is where we go into different organizations and we offer the staff the opportunity to donate or get a pie in the face. So with every staff member, you have to donate more. So if one staff member donates $5, to avoid getting pied, when you go to the next staff member, then that person would have to pay maybe $10 not to get pie. So the amount continuously grows until we reach a certain amount. The next event that we have is in May, and that is a ride-a-thon. That is May 6th and 7th. It's a 24-hour ride-a-thon, so they're going to be riding for 24 hours.
That should be fun.
Yeah.
For the athletes.
And after that, we're going to have the Power of the Purse. The date for that is still being, still to be determined. After that, we will have the Walk in Their Shoes, and that's also in May. The date for that too also will be confirmed, and then we will let the public know a specific date for that. After that, in June, we're discussing having a ninja course. So it would be just like American Ninja Warrior, but it would be on the beach. The date for that, we still haven't gotten a date for that as yet. So whenever the date for that is out, we'll put it on our social media accounts and on our website. After that, we have the Shop for Shelter Shop for Taya in June. So that's June 29th.
So we have, not to cut you off, Akila, but we have a whole lot of fundraising initiative this year, and some of them are being planned by our fundraising committee, and then there are others that are being planned by the public. So all our activities will be published in our newsletter and also on our social media page, and as Akila mentioned, on the website. So the information will be there. So for the fundraising initiatives that we have not yet confirmed a date, once a date has been confirmed, it will be on our socials, website, and newsletter. Yes.
We'll be here to help you too in any way we can.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, March the 14th, Pi Day. And that's 3.14. How many digits can you go to the pi, Akila? 3.14.
1.5 or something.
So we can go to 4. Yeah. I went to 2.
And just so you know, we'll be coming to Radio Cayman for the Pi Day, so be prepared. Okay.
There you go. You go. I think Susan has a day off. Oh, no, she doesn't. All right. And if closing thoughts from you, Miss Borden, if you wish to share?
Well, not really. Just to encourage anybody that is going through an abusive situation to make sure they reach out and know what's out there, that they know that they have support, and that we're here for them if they need us.
There you go. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Benson.
You're most welcome. Just to close, I just want to thank the community. It really means a lot to see the level of support that we receive. It's really, really, really a big thing for us because, as I mentioned, it's a staff of 10. And a staff of 10 responding to an age-old issue, especially at such magnitude. It's not easy. So we couldn't have done it by ourselves. So I just want to say a big thank you and shout out to the community. And for persons who need support, you reach us at our crisis line, 943-2422. So that's 943-2422. You can also visit our website. That's www.cicc.ky, or send us an email, info@cicc.ky. Or you could just, visit our social media pages. If you have a concern or a query, send us a message. So that's at Crisis Center, at CI Crisis Center, for both Instagram and Facebook.
All right, thank you very much. And thanks to both of you for joining Marisha as well.
Thank you so much for having us. So I'm now officially a family of the program.
Yes. There you go. All right, see that?
And I'll be taking, what's your dietary preference? Are you vegetarian? What do I need to take?
Vegetarian, chocolate. We have some good stuff, man.
Okay, no worries. I'll have a bunch of surprises next time I come, which is pretty soon.
Hey, share the love, man. It's almost feels like Valentine's Day, which I forgot to tell somebody happy Valentine's, but maybe next year.
It's never too late.
All right, let's pause and take that break. And when we come back, let's continue. We're loving and learning. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Subway is serving up a special new sauce, bursting with flavor in every bite. The new Savory Collection is a tropical sweet and spicy sauce made with a combination of spices, habanero peppers, thyme, onion, black pepper, ginger, citrus juices, and molasses.
So good. Wow. Sensational. Delicious.
Subway's Savory Collection pairs perfectly with our oven roasted chicken or steak sub. Savor the flavor. For a limited time, only at Subway. Subway. Eat fresh.
Hello, boys and girls. I'm Zara. If you are students in Cayman between 3 and 16 years old and love reading books like I do, welcome to the first Rotary Central Video Book Reports competition. Record your short video, no more than 90 seconds, on why you love your favorite book, what made you excited, or what made you laugh. There are lots of fabulous prizes. Too many to talk about now. For further information and sign up, go to Rotary Central Cayman Islands Facebook page or email david.rotarycentral@gmail.com. Record your book report video and send it by March 31st. So easy, so fun. The Rotary Central Cayman Islands Video Book Reports Competition. Rotary serves to change lives.
New to Cayman, the Cayman Documentary Festival. Real world problems, real world solutions. 5 documentaries, 5 discussion panels. March 16th to the 20th at the Camana Bay Cinema. Documentaries include domestic abuse, environmental protection, mental health awareness, technology and finance, and music and heritage. Tickets available at fanango.com for $25. Funds benefiting Plastic Free Cayman, Crisis Center Cayman, Alex Panton Foundation, NCVO, and Cayman Arts Festival. The Cayman Documentary Festival. Real world problems, real world solutions. March 16th to the 20th at the Camana Bay Cinema.
As seniors, we owe it to each other to stay safe and healthy through this pandemic. Let's make sure that our COVID-19 vaccinations are up to date, including getting boosters, and be aware of your surroundings so that we can manage the conditions that make us more vulnerable. Remember, we're in this together. So do your part. Get boosted. You can visit www.gov.ky/coronavirus to learn some more.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks very much for the opportunity to continue this partnership with the Health Services Authority. And as we have a chance now to talk about the 10th annual Women's Health Conference coming up, which is imminently honored to have from the HSC, Dr. Karina Palmer, the OBGYN, women's health nurse, Beverly Sinclair, and together with the manager for communications and marketing is Brooke Moore. Ladies, thank you very much. I think as we celebrate on International Women's Day, I'm honored to know that in my life I have some incredible women from who have been instrumental. And even in Radio Cayman, we can see that, as all the male staff say, without hesitation, if we want it done right, we just get the boss to do it. And she has it under control. So if you want the job done right, you get a woman to do it. Right, Dr. Palmer?
Hi. It is a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having us. We're excited. It's our 10th year doing this conference, and it was the sort of the baby or the brainchild of Dr. Alexander at Women's Health. Mm-hmm. And it's just a time to take this occasion for Women's Day, International Women's Day, and bring the focus on women, but specifically health issues and that aspect of women. So this year's conference, because it was the 10th year, has gone a little bit bigger and better, we hope. So we usually have it in-house, but we've moved it out, so it's exciting, and we have lots of topics and stuff to talk about.
Well, I think this is where that even though sometimes we may see as a community that the timing of certain things probably don't align because we have so much on our agenda, or we may see the structure and schedule of certain things. That's a health conference, for instance. That's for healthcare providers. But even having an opportunity when somebody's already oversubscribed to see a preview beforehand, but to talk about it after the event, so there's a community we start to appreciate how it affects us, and especially when we think of something like women's health, our daughters, our wives, our mothers, our sisters, our co-workers, the health and wellness of all of us, and it's important. If I might though, Nurse Sinclair, from that perspective, how do you? Oh, sorry, did I get it right?
Nurse Samuel.
You know what? I should ask questions and not read what I see. I know better, right? Let me start over. Properly introduce. I have on my note, Women's Health Nurse, Beverly Sinclair. I'm thinking, that's not right. Thank you. I said Bev is from the other place. Nurse Samuel, apologies, Mom.
That's quite okay.
No, I think for now I should wear my glasses. From the perspective, and I think Dr. Palmer will probably help us to appreciate, from the perspective of women's health, we know increasingly from our cardiologists that the presentation for some issues, women present differently. We know from what we understand statistically, women will ignore sometimes their signs because they're so busy attending to everything else, making the world run. And then in the absence of the women in our lives, because of illness or even because they're occupied with something else, they're the closest to trying to be in two places at one time, but they quite haven't managed that yet. We see the void, yet we're not there with getting the women in our lives to make themselves a priority and not ignore the things that have probably been niggling for weeks or even sometimes years. So with this conference, then, help us to appreciate the significance of it as a community, as even for policy formulation, from the perspective of getting us to appreciate the importance of looking after health and taking care of the person who takes care of everybody else.
Yes, and as Dr. Palmer mentioned, is that this year we are going bigger, and because we are having it more it's usually held at the hospital, and the main audience is usually staff members. Now that we are going bigger, it's now open to more members of the public, and because it's our aim to empower, inform, and educate our women, and to get them more aware how important their taking care of their health is. Right. And I think this year we will be able to reach larger audience. And even so, it also will be online. So persons who will not be able to come in person will be able to. And the topics that we will be exploring, it's very important to inform our women the importance of the health.
And Dr. Palmer, this is a full day conference.
It is.
And there's a lot, and I appreciate you sharing the agenda with me, because I think more and more we don't see the impact. We see sometimes the environmental concerns and considerations, not even just outside, but the indoor air quality, from issues of the off-gassing of the carpets and the paints, and potential how that could be impacting respiratory health, but reproductive health. So the theme for this conference and the focus will be on what?
So our theme, there's always a international theme for Women's Day, right? So we never really follow that as far as what the conference theme is. So the international theme is Break the Bias, but our theme has to do with the impact, sort of the head-to-toe impact of women or on women's reproductive health. So it's literally trying to focus on topics that are interesting, they're educational, and just sort of going head-to-toe, different things such as vulvar cancer, talking about infections, STI infections, and their effects on the eyes, and just kind of working your way down talking about menopause. And so it's a variety of topics and just sort of trying to touch not necessarily every organ system, but sort of go down from head to toe, kind of trying to touch several different organs and how they affect women and affect their reproductive health. So, yeah, I mean...
Sorry, as I listen to you, I am thinking that, you mentioned menopause, and perhaps people probably think, well, that's when a woman is at this age and the like. And even if you consider premenopause, but reproductive, that young lady who is, she's thinking, once I finish my formal education, get my career on the road, I want to be healthy so that I start the family. So you're going to cover head to toe, but even from the early years to that stage in life when, hey, I'm starting to enjoy it. I've raised my family. I've got my career on the way. I want to get the most out of it. So menopause just means put the man aside. Let me move on better, right? No, that's my joke for today. But the other topics that you have in mind, the notion that, say, for STIs, increasingly we don't even necessarily have probably as much of a discussion publicly as that. Even HPV or even other ones, because we think, well, people know that this is no longer the 50s and the 70s. I mean, we've come there, but have we really gotten to that space where we are impacted by our casualness to in relations, to the protective measures, not just for unwanted, unplanned pregnancies, but to our health and well-being?
Just from what I see in the clinic, I think... What's the best way to describe it? Like when you sort of become insensitive or immune to all the bombardment of the information.
Almost desensitized to
So
that.
exactly. So I find that, yes, people are aware of it and all of that, but there is a sort of desensitization to where people are becoming more blasé about it, not being as careful and not being as cautious with protection and those things. Yeah, I mean, that's just my personal experience in the clinic.
But I find too that our younger women are getting more concerned about this. I find we have quite a bit of teenagers and women in their early 20s who have started relationships. They tend to come in to make inquiry, and Dr. Palmer has a well-booming clinic. So I think...
And that is a big part of that clinic. We focus on that. We talk about routine screenings, when they should be done, and what should be a part of it. So I'm not saying that it's not happening, but I do find sometimes that it becomes a little bit just not as cautious as maybe you would think.
And maybe we're not even as immediate or urgent in our approach, and maybe perhaps because we see other things unfolding that seem to be more important in our minds. I think back to even, we now call it STIs. It was not long ago when it was, the I and the D had been swapped around, right? So the casualness to some things, the approach that it maybe is not as serious, but are there consequences long term to our other organs, to our eyes, to our overall health and wellness that we don't appreciate because of this contracted thing that wasn't treated sufficiently or timely?
Absolutely. Chlamydia is a big one. It's extremely common, and a lot of times you will not have symptoms, so people expect that, oh, well, I'm fine because I have no discharge, I have no itching, I have no whatever. And so most of the times it is asymptomatic. And there are long-term impacts not only on your eyes, you can have long-term impacts on your reproductive organs, right? So leading to blockages in the tubes and infertility. And then I've seen it several times where we'll do routine things, it comes back positive, and they're like, eyes pop open like, oh, I didn't realize that this could do this to me if I didn't pick it up and treat it.
It's sort of, and if I'd be guided by you as a physician, but I think back to some of the discussions that we have with other physicians relative to diabetes or diabetes education from some of our nurses, where the person isn't understanding that if you don't deal with the issue now in the early stages, later on, not only loss of limb, but loss of sight, but also it could lead to death because of some other issue. While I say that, perhaps I could ask Ms. Brooke, from your perspective, when we think of promotion, when we think of invitation to the wider community, as was said, we extended this so that either in person for those who were able to sign up beforehand, or even online for those who may find that to be more convenient and accessible. These topics are not just physicians presenting to their peers, but this is for us as individuals trying to take some information and being more knowledgeable and informed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just adding to that, so the conference, we did have a sign up for on-site, but that is now closed because we have reached our capacity. But this year we're going to be offering the conference via live stream as well. Mm-hmm. So the conference will be on CIG TV's YouTube channel the day of. So anyone who hasn't been able to register can watch it live. We'll also have the conference available afterwards as well. So one thing that people always look forward to is their CME credits. So CMEs will be offered for both in person and virtual. So if you aren't able to come to the conference, we'll still have a digital CME certificate available for those persons who aren't able to attend. And I think this year, with it being the 10th year, it's a good opportunity, like you said, to reach a wider audience, because it isn't just for the target of just HSA staff as have been in the past. And we've actually opened it, so we'll have exhibitors this year. So the conference is at the Marriott on Friday. So we have sponsors on board, which we're very happy to have. Health City, we have Miami Cancer Institute, Cayman Fertility Center, among others, that will be at the conference as well.
I think it's where this partnership for a wider community, Dr. Palmer, gets maybe the interest in the wider community in healthcare, whether as a physician or some educator to promote, maybe from the policy perspective, but also gives us a chance. And I think the conference being available online gives more people a chance to get information.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I may ask, though, as we think back to your comment, head to toe, and I was just sort of in my mind going down, some of us take a shower, we wash our hair first, and then we finish, our, I don't want to say a ritual, but we have a routine. We finish cleaning our feet, we have the different devices to scrub our feet as we would scrub our bodies, right? I wonder if we are approaching our health in the same way, especially women's health, but their reproductive and the impact of a head-to-toe approach. The STIs and the eyes impact to breast health, whether it's the nursing mother or expected mother, to the lady who maybe 40, 50, 60 and seeing signs that she said, is this menopause? Am I feeling this way? How do we get us to look at the body and go through head to toe, take it from the hair follicle down to the toenails?
How do we do that?
Watch the conference.
Exactly. Log on.
Log on, yeah. CIG YouTube channel.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I think we try to do that from in some of our clinics where we're talking about and we talked about this before when I've been on, talking about when you're well, you do certain things, and that's why you do certain screenings, because you don't wait until you start to have the issue. You do it when you're well and be able to do some preventative things. And so we do tend to try to bring that into some of our clinics at Women's Health, making sure that you're doing your regular just women's health in particular for us, health maintenance, doing the STD screenings if it's necessary, doing your pap smear screening, of course, breast cancer screening, and all the other things. And it's just making people just focus on not only coming to Women's Health or any physician when they're ill, when they're having symptoms, and just make it a routine part of your life. Once a year, you go and you focus on your women's health issues, specifically for us, but just general health, and do those things. And the other thing that I think that's important is that as physicians, we tend to shy away from certain things. So you don't really want to ask people about, for example, urinary incontinence. But what I've found is that people don't volunteer that information, not until it becomes like really problematic for them. And so you have to sort of probe and ask questions specific to things that they may not want to bring up.
Yeah.
And then when you do ask, then you find that they're very willing to talk about it. It's just that
they probably wanted to, but felt embarrassed, wasn't sure how to broach it.
So from my point of view, like as a physician, it's getting over that sort of maybe fear of you're probing too much and getting into uncomfortable topics, and just do it as a routine. You're going from head to toe and talk about things, ask questions.
When you were sharing, and I thank you for broaching that, because I was just thinking that sometimes there are people like me who will come in and have 1,000 questions. Guy, just pick up the apple. Well, what do you mean? Yeah, I have these questions, I want to know. Then there are others who they will not even ask the question that they were given before. And here are some questions that you may want to ask. They're afraid to. But I credit the physicians at HSA and increasingly across the community who are more receptive and encouraging of their patients to ask questions. But screenings and relationships, then let me go back to relationships. You're talking about having this relationship with your patient who comes in and gets comfortable, and over time can share, hey doc, this, and what about that? So that's regular checkups to build that relationship would help. Many of us ignore it, right?
Yeah.
And I find that our women, more women are coming with their partners and for antenatal care during pregnancy, and so we develop a relationship, and you find them after they've developed that relationship. I think we break the ice, and so they will continue coming, and they also come with their partners. So some of the taboos and some of the things that we wouldn't speak about, or they would seek care.
Well, if it's appropriate, I'd be guided by you. I think that is a thing that I think back to. We see some people, the two going together, and not just when they're expecting, but the antenatal. We even see other times when they go to check up. I would ask you for your guidance if I'm sort of misled in this belief, but I'm thinking if you, not just as a parent, but as another person goes with your friend, your partner, two people getting to listen. It's not just a chaperone. It's not just for the safety of the patient or for the physician. It's, you're in an environment where you may be a bit nervous. I meant to ask the doctor, should I bandage this once a week? They get nervous, so how that person can help. So maybe when we come back, could we ask about the benefit, whether it's encouraged, as you shared us, to bring your partners with you so they know what's going on, and, respecting the privacy and the confidentiality, but also sometimes the comfort, well, I don't want to do this in front of this one here. But also then the screenings, from the perspective of what screenings are there. Should other screenings be more sort of routine? You go to get your blood checked, they can check for cholesterol and sugar and these things. But unless you ask for this, and this, you may not get it, or if the physician didn't specifically request it, until there's a suspicion. So should more screenings be extended? I understand the cost. And what are the normal screenings, specifically to women's health? Could we talk about those two things maybe after the break?
Sure.
All right, well, if you have a question that you want to ask and you're not comfortable asking on air, either WhatsApp it, 925-3261. Miss Susan, I can say generously would take the question off air and pass it along to us. So you can dial 800-534-8255. That 1-800 is the number, and then 949-8837. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
From Radio Cayman's newsroom, I'm April Cummings. As part of the Central Business District Enhancement Project Phase 1 upgrades, Cardinal Avenue between Seafarers Way and Albert Panton Street will finally close to general vehicular traffic on Monday, March 14th, as it begins its transformation into a pedestrianized street. Starting Monday, the section of street between Seafarers Way and Albert Panton Street will be accessible to local traffic only. In international headlines, authorities arrested 6 teenagers, including a 14-year-old, in a shooting outside a school that killed a 15-year-old boy and seriously wounded 2 teenage girls in Des Moines, Iowa. The suspects are charged with first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder in the Monday afternoon shooting on the grounds of East High School near Des Moines downtown, just about a half mile from the capital. Police said gunshots fired outside the school came from several shooters in multiple vehicles. The target was the 15-year-old who was killed. The other shooting victims were bystanders caught in the shooting. About 500 residents evacuated voluntarily from the slopes of Guatemala's volcano of fire today as red-hot rock and ash flowed down the slopes toward an area devastated by a 2018 eruption. The National Institute of Seismology, Volcanology, Meteorology, and Hydrology said in a statement that around 3 a.m. today, the volcano's activity began to diminish. Those are your headlines. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, I'm April Cummings.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Music. Shorty coming with a Cayman vibe. Music.
It holds a special place in our Caymanian heritage and culture.
It unites our community,
fuels our spirit of positivity,
and keeps Caymankind alive.
Music.
From kitchen bands and gospel singers to reggae, hip-hop, and country.
The new generation of Caymanian artists and performers.
Music. Our taste in music may be diverse, but let's come together as one Caymanian song. Keep the love alive.
Keep the love alive. The Cayman Music and Entertainment Association thanks you for your support of our local talent here in Cayman and beyond.
For more information on musicians, DJs, or to learn about the CMEA, call 929-8646 or email cmeainfo@gmail.com.
Wave your country flag, sport your favorite jersey, show off that national costume, or channel your inner majesty with a salute to the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. It's Dress for Culture Day with a Majesty theme, Friday, March 11th, brought to you by the Cultural Foundation as part of K-Fest 2022. Celebrate Cayman's cultural melting pot with a Dress Down fundraiser, open to schools, businesses, and individuals for donations of just $5 for adults, $3 for students. Visit artscayman.org for more information.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks so much for joining us. And it's really a pleasure to partner with the Health Services Authority, especially now on the Friday the 11th at the Marriott and all the, the 10th annual Women's Health Conference. And Dr. Karina Palmer, as a OBGYN, I always remember they go hand in hand, right? We see the importance of women specifically looking after themselves, because they're the ones that ensure that the rest of us are functioning, from their partners to their aged parents, to their siblings who are brothers, to their children, and even their co-workers. They provide that thing that brings society together. I was asking about screenings and the like, some of the routine screenings that women should. We mentioned the PAP, we mentioned the mammogram. We know the timelines depending on things, but are there other screenings, A, that are routine, or B, that may be potential, should be considered by the patient to inquire and by the physician to sort of request?
Yeah, so, sorry, I just want to clarify. I'm not an OBGYN.
Okay.
I'm a medical doctor. I work
No,
in
my
women's health, and
nose
I've
is
always
out.
worked in women's health. No, that's fine.
I'll go to my producer, which is me.
It's just that it all depends on the age group that you're dealing with. So there's always specific screenings that are recommended for certain periods in your life. And so if we're talking about women's health, Pap smear screening, you know, it's recently changed where they've sort of updated guidelines to recommend starting screening at age 25 if you're doing HPV testing. And things are sort of shifting where HPV alone testing is being recommended. Now, in Cayman, I don't think we're at the stage yet where we have all the laboratory support to just do HPV alone. So some of the old recommendations are still being followed. You start at age 21. Breast cancer screening, depending on which guidelines you follow, there's sort of a general consensus that you start screening at age 40. And then now, recently, as of the end of 2021, they've moved down screening for colorectal cancer, for example. So that used to be 50, and now it's dropped down to 45. And those are sort of the big ones that you can screen for. Then you have some other ones, like, for example, lung cancer screening, and there's specific criteria that you use to decide who should get screening. So not every single person will go for lung cancer screening. If you've been a smoker, if you have certain diseases and certain risk factors, then yes, you should screen. So, like I said, it depends on where you are, what stage you are. If you come in as a 20-year-old, you may not need to do a Pap smear.
Right.
You may not need to do, you know, certain things.
Depends on your lifestyle and how you...
Right, exactly.
If I might ask, something that I've heard a couple of times, and I wonder if it's a myth. Well, in my attempt at first a joke, we know prostate would be male specific. But for some strange reason, over the years, just in casual conversation, I've heard people sort of reference, and I've come away with the perception that some of us have the belief that colon cancer is more male. And then I went and statistically looked. So, I mean, we all have colons.
I was going to say, as long as you have a colon.
Yeah. And even up until Thursday last week, I was just in a casual conversation. You know, someone was going, a male friend is going to go and get a colonoscopy. He's 50 something, and this is the second one that he's had, and just as a routine. And some of the women there even were the view, well, they don't need to. And I thought, now it wasn't an argument, it wasn't a long discussion, but it was like the second or third time in as many years where it would seem that there are some of us who think, well, that's not a priority area for women.
Yeah.
I thought I would ask, and then just to dispel it if there's a belief by some.
No, absolutely. I mean, colon cancer, all of us have colons. And as long as you have a colon, then colon cancer screening is for you.
Right.
And I think with that, it tends to be one of those taboo things.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do a colonoscopy.
No.
But it's just education, you know, to talk to people about doing it and the importance of it. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's still everybody's choice, but at least that they have the information that it is for women, it is for men, and if you're 45 and above, you should be doing it. And then there are certain risks that you might have that mean that you might need to even do it sooner than 45. You know, it all depends.
And with your physician's guidance, get it as frequently as you need. You know, you can wait the extended period, or the physician, she might say to you, listen, come back a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
And make the necessary sort of adjustments to your lifestyle relative to diet and exercise.
Yes.
Which could then bode well for all the other issues. Would women still fall into that category? I mean, thinking of the mother now who has decided, you know, I have my 5 children and that's it. No, blessed as she is. How she takes care of herself following, you know, the birth of her children. This is the family she wants. And or the younger professional later who's thinking, in a few years, I want to get started with the family. Their approach to life, diet, exercise, and the like would be the same in terms of their overall health and well-being?
Yeah, I mean...
yeah, so I guess,
right,
so what I'm thinking is, like, we look at some women, you know, who they've now accepted that, well, to have childbirth, they're going to be, a few extra pounds. They're so busy with life, they don't need to spend as much time looking after themselves, their health, their sleep, their nutritional intake. Their time for themselves to rest and sort of re-energize, because they're just going and going. But then that male and female, that couple who's thinking about, well, we want to be as healthy so that the child is as healthy, their birth and pregnancy as best as possible. They'll consider doing certain things or reducing certain things or avoiding certain things.
So that applies, it applies to everybody. I mean, different things might be tweaked a little bit depending on what stage you are, but generally, we all know eating healthy, exercise, all of that. That's part and parcel for everybody. But for example, at the later stage, you're talking about women who have completed childbearing. Maybe they're entering menopause. People often think menopause, and especially I think sometimes doctors, it's like you don't have necessarily a whole lot of training or teaching on menopause. I mean, that's changing, right? But it's a great opportunity to now sort of enter a new phase and an opportunity for different focus. So, for example, postmenopausal women are at increased risk of heart disease. Things change, hormones change, and so you're at increased risk of certain health conditions that sometimes we don't take the opportunity to say, well, now that you're in this stage of life, this is what we have to focus on. So, yeah, you do still have to do the general stuff, but depending on where you are, then maybe kind of hone in on certain things.
As you share that, and I'm certainly not an expert, and sometimes you're told to read a little bit more about certain things so you understand, what's happening with the people in your lives. But say for menopause, maybe we don't appreciate that this impact on women is similar but can be completely different from one to the next. The timing and the like, and the changes in their approach to life, their outwardness, their
No, absolutely. And it sort of makes me chuckle a little. Sometimes you'll have somebody come into the clinic and let's say they're 47, 48, and they're like, so this really, really weird thing happened to me. And they'll list off the symptoms and you're kind of like, yeah, that's menopause. And you tell them that and their eyes like pop open like, what? So it's just... yeah, but it does affect people differently. It affects people at different stages. In you might start earlier, you might start later. Symptoms might be really severe and really, awful for some people, and other people just breeze right through it. And it's just for people to understand sort of the range of things that could happen to them, understand what's happening specifically with them, and then offer them help.
Yeah. And I certainly don't want to belabor it when I certainly want to invite the opportunity to maybe talk more about some of the presenters and the like. But with menopause, and when you get to a certain age in life, you start to realize the impact on you, on your partners and those, your co-workers and like. So is there really such a thing as a pre-menopause, then menopause, and post-menopause? And
yeah, it's what I prefer is the term menopausal transition. That's what they're calling it, right? Okay. So it's a transition, and you go from sort of late reproductive stage where you're now at the point where you're finished with reproductive activities, and you're beginning perimenopause, and that takes you through for a few years until you've seen your last menses, and then you're into the postmenopause. So yeah, it's a whole transition.
And that could be a number of years as well.
Definitely, right. And that is also variable.
Yeah.
It can be shorter for some women, longer for other women.
And I would just be mindful I say this, but I'm wondering, again, back to what I was thinking about our lifestyle, our diet, exercise, good, healthy lifestyle choices could probably help with everything else, how we are affected and impacted by it.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Well, we've got a final break, and I'm so grateful that you guys will guide us in this discussion. When we come back, maybe we can talk more about the program of events on the 11th. All right, please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
It's in our name. Fried chicken, it's our thing. Others may try, but we have the original. We put the extra in extra crispy. And our secret in everyone's mouth. So if we want to make the best chicken sandwich, we just need to put our name on it. New Kentucky Chicken Sandwich. An abundant triple breaded filet, premium mayo and pickles, all in a buttered brioche bun. The best chicken sandwich had to be KFC.
Calling all amateur bakers in the Cayman Islands. Celebrate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Taking part in the Cayman Islands Platinum Cake Competition. His Excellency the Governor Martin Roper invites you to submit your homemade dessert recipe to the Governor's office by April 3rd. Win a chance to have your dessert recreated for the Queen's birthday party in June. Do you have what it bakes? Well, submit today at gov.ky/Jubilee.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks for joining us. And thanks too for the opportunity sometimes, be able to present an opportunity for the public to be, as Nurse Samuel shared, educated, empowered, and informed and engaged. And the annual Women's Health Conference coming up on the 11th of March over at the Marriott. We have Ms. Brooke Moore together with Dr. Karina Palmer joining us. I would imagine that all who are in attendance, not just the CMEs that we get for those professionals qualifying, but for the wider public, you have a wonderful array of panelists and guests. So maybe take us through some more about it, Nessa.
Yeah, so every year that we've done this, we've been very fortunate to have a variety of speakers, so local speakers, in-house speakers, as well as international speakers. So this year is similar. We have a few of our speakers coming from Baptist Health, and a couple others from other overseas institutions, and outside speakers even locally, like our Dr. Stone, who's over at Ocean Med. So we have those speakers as well as HSA speakers, and the thing that makes us really sort of excited as well is to see that we have HSA speakers who are young Caymanian doctors doing presentations. And the other thing that we are going to be talking about, which, for these last couple of years, everybody has been dealing with COVID-19 pandemic. So we have one specific topic that is going to cover the pandemic, specifically talking about pregnancy in the pandemic, vaccination, childbirth, postnatal exams, and the postnatal time. Mm-hmm. So those are some topics that we are excited to talk about, and as I said, the fact that we have some local young Caymanian doctors presenting also is something that we want to highlight to the general public.
And I commend you for that too, because at the end of the day, when we see that would encourage increasingly more and more of our people to see the health sector as attractive. They can relate to it. They can see the importance. And I think your point about the pandemic times, how many times in recent times we've seen physicians publicly saying, listen, we understand the challenges, but you can't forego even your chemo. Some people were delaying it, or they were delaying their follow-up, or they were trying to reschedule that appointment that they probably took months to get just because. So maybe having that approach now, we can get it. From there though, Nurse Ahmed, I mean, we're in Cayman, and sometimes we look at our children in a safe bubble. We ourselves look in the space where it's safe, it's better, it's different. But we're impacted and bombarded by all that's happening globally, from the resources that we can tap into to accessing some of the material and supplies. This conference could be an eye-opener for many of us, huh?
Yes, and also the Women's Health Department unit from HSA, we will be having a booth. And so the Public Health Department will also be having a booth. And at these booths, we will be providing information. And so persons will be informed of the resources available, the services available, because sometimes our persons are not aware of the service, the wide range of services that we offer from these departments. And you know that.
I think that's one of the many reasons I really appreciate this partnership, because as a small community, and to you, Ms. Brooke, we don't see how we have such a wide array of services. We don't see the competence, the professionalism. We don't see the actual equipment. People think you need to travel elsewhere to get some of the stuff. So from that, we can appreciate that small community in terms of the geographical size, the size of the population, even though some would say it was too many people. We have a lot that's available that is on par with many larger jurisdictions, and sometimes even as good, if not better.
Yeah, and speaking of some of the information at the conference, I know that they're going to be talking about mammograms and mammography, and I know that we've got one of the best machines that there is, and it's it's painless. I've had it done before, no pain at all. So yeah, there's definitely a high grade of services available.
There is one. I remember when we first got the 64 slice CT scan some time back. It was just rare.
Now it's 124.
That was, and that was a cutting edge then. So we're increasingly investing in that because of the health and well-being of our populace. And this is where we as a people can appreciate the spend of the taxpayer dollar. At the conference, tell me, what would you, from the perspective of engaging the public in terms of, in addition to what was shared, what would you want us to know and to appreciate more about the conference, its uptake, and the services?
Well, I think it's an exciting year because it's like Dr. Palmer mentioned, it's our first year taking it out of the hospital setting. We're happy that the COVID restrictions in regards to number of gatherings has expanded, so we can we can now offer the on-site conference to more. So we're going to have approximately 200 people at the conference, which I think will probably be, maybe half HSA and half other sponsors and general public. But as you mentioned, the topics are such a wide range, not just to women, but also, I think husbands, fathers would also be interested because, like you said, the woman in their life, whether that's their mother, their sister, their wife, are all going through this head to toe at some stage, right? So I think involving them and kind of educating them as well will be beneficial.
And I like that idea that as we take the head to toe approach and we start to appreciate it, I go back to where as the supporting partner in this team, it's important for us to be involved, but to also be comfortable. How many men, well, hopefully the mothers are, but how many men are comfortable and knowledgeable to talking to their daughters about some of these things, even if they're the single dad or the one who's maybe home mostly because of work-life balance. But even talking to their partners about it, how do you talk to someone if you don't know what you're talking about? Right, Dr. Palmer?
Yeah.
See? We got to learn.
I would also like to mention too that there will be a presentation by one of our midwives from the maternity unit.
Okay.
She'll be speaking about the non-genital maternal injuries in pregnancy, delivery, and the postnatal periods. So,
okay,
she will be one of the presenters.
And there's so much that we don't know until we realize we don't know it. We didn't know it. And I think just sharing that idea that we go through life. It's the young couple who is planning to start a family, they get information. Once this family comes along, they get other information, and then after a few years, their friends tell them, "You're like, why didn't you tell me this from the beginning?" Well, they might have discouraged you from starting from the first place. So timing is important, but knowledge is empowering. All right, I like it. In closing, perhaps maybe Ms. Brooke, perhaps start with you first and tell us, the importance of the conference. Talk about the sponsors. Well, share with our listeners as you wish.
Yeah, so it's happening this Friday at the Marriott. But if you haven't registered, registration on site is now closed. But you can tune in live on CIG's YouTube page. So that'll be available the day of the event, and then the presentations will be available after the event as well. If you want to check out the agenda, you can visit hsa.ky, and we have the full agenda there, so you can have a look to see when you want to tune in if you're not available throughout the day. And obviously, we want to give a shout out to a few of our sponsors. We have Health City, Miami Cancer Institute, which is part of Baptist Health, Cayman Fertility Center, among others. So this is our first year partnering and opening up the conference to the wider community. So we're happy to have the support from the wider community in that regard.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
And as far as any closing thoughts you may want to leave with our listeners?
Yes, I would just say, as Ms. Brooke said, I would like more for women. Not only the women, as we say, we are trying to break the backs with like our men to tune into, because there is a lot of information. They will be educated on a lot of our conditions that is very important to the health of both women and by extension the family. Because once the women are healthy, we know that the women, I might be biased here, but women are usually the backbone of the families. And if our women are healthy, then we'll have very healthy families. So I'll just encourage persons may not have registered, but we have the opportunity to tune in online.
Well, I hope that we do, because as you shared, whether it's the lady who has decided, she's finished with her family and she's on to the other stage, more exciting things in life, or it's the young couple who are thinking about, how to be that partnership together. Any closing thoughts, Dr. Palmer?
I would just like to say that, we've been doing this now for 10 years, and it's always International Women's Day because the focus is on women. And so as Nurse Bev said, about empowering, I think that's the big takeaway from this. The aim of this conference is to empower women through education. And so, the saying goes, knowledge is power. So I want to also encourage people to come out, the people who have registered. If you cannot come out and are not able to attend in person, definitely tune in. I think there's something for everybody here. You don't have to necessarily listen to every single topic, but whatever interests you, there should be something that interests everybody to some degree or the other, and there will be definitely something that you will take away from it and learn. So yeah, we're excited about it, so come out.
It looks like a very promising agenda, and thanks for sharing with me. And, even just the curious mind, you could sit all day and come with knowledge, but as someone who will be impacted from the pandemic time is through the notion of the effects of menopause on the whole body. Women go through different stages, and if you're 30 now, there's nothing wrong with knowing what may occur to you in 30 years. But you might be able to stave off certain things, So thanks very, very much to both of you, and Ms. Brooke as well. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
May the conference be a resounding success. Through you, perhaps we can extend an invitation that if you choose to come back after and talk and recap, either in person or on the phone, we'll be happy to have that. Because sometimes, the analysis afterwards just as instructive. All right, to our listeners, please come back tomorrow morning for the record with Mr. Art. Join us for Talk Today right after the midday news and midday meditation. If you got a country song that you want to request, you better call Susan now, because if not, she's going to probably play some really soulful music. Until tomorrow, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.